Okay, good morning, folks. Welcome to another edition of Now You Know. And today I am very pleased to have three guests with me from the Wesserunset Arts Council. We've never had anyone on from Wesserunset Arts Council. This is a real pleasure. And to my right is Saskia Reinhold. And you are, what, the administrative assistant for West Arts?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
I got that right. I'm off to a good start.
Yeah, so I write a lot of the grants and so just oversee paperwork and day-to-day operations.
Okay. And then to my left, some people I've known for a long time, I guess. Tom and Peggy Hamilton from Cornville. And Peggy is actually the president of Wesserunset Arts Council. And Tom is general manager for one of the divisions of Wesserunset Arts Council, best known as Hooskow Radio 98.1. See if I can even get the call letters right. WXNZ. And so you've been general manager there for a little while.
Yep.
And so forth. Hey, before we get too far into things this morning, in our discussions before going on the air, I found out that Wesserunset Arts Council was involved in the barn quilts that maybe some or a lot of you have seen going up around central Maine. And I know there's one on the side of the LaCase building, and there's one on the side of the Grange Hall in Skowhegan. And tell me something about that, Saskia.
Sure. So that is a project of the High Peaks Creative Council out of Franklin County. And I work for that organization as well. We collaborated with Wesserunset Arts to bring the Barn Quilt Trail into Somerset County. We started back in 2018 and worked in 5 schools throughout Franklin County and installed 31 barn quilts and had about 600 kids who helped paint them. And then we were approached by Carabec District that they wanted to replicate the project. We got grant funds. COVID hit. So then we had to pivot because we were not allowed in the schools. So we raised some more grant money to bring the project all the way to Skowhegan and did community workshops. So we held about 12 free art classes where community members came and helped paint the barn quilts. We worked with people between the ages of 5 and 91. I think we had about 200 participants show up for the workshops, and we created 15 barn quilts for Somerset County that stretch from Lexington, New Portland, Emden, North Anson, East Madison, Solon, and Skowhegan. So those all went up in the last month, and we will be producing a map guide of them eventually. In the meantime, we're working on getting the locations posted online at highpeaksmaine.org, and then we'll also put that up on the Wes Arts webpage, which is wesarts.org.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know much about High Peaks.
So
where are they?
that's a nonprofit that connects all the arts and heritage organizations in North Franklin County. So the Stanley Museum, the Sandy River and Rangy Lakes Railroad Museum. We've had participation from the Wilhelm Reich Museum. There's about 12 museums up there and 2 arts organizations, Rangeley Friends of the Arts and Kingfield Pops. And we get together and meet quarterly to see if we can share any collaborations, and we develop projects to drive cultural tourism throughout the rural region. And that was formed in 2012. We've done a map guide, which originally sent people around to the museums and other historic sites. So there's.
See that? Hopefully you can see that.
If I can get it to
If
unfold.
you can't, John might post it later.
Yeah, and then the back side has information on all the cultural sites, and we most recently added in these barn quilts. So our next map will just be barn quilts that will include Somerset, and we will probably collaborate with Wesserunset Arts Council on the production of that as well. And the idea of it is really to celebrate rural traditions of quilting. so designs that have been passed down through generations of Americans, and by putting them on barns and museums and those high-profile spots in downtowns, the idea is to drive rural tourism throughout the region.
Well, I'm only familiar with the two that I saw in Skowhegan, and when you're coming across, or coming north across the bridges, and see the one on the side of the LaCase building, I think that's very impressive. It's very nice looking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're coming out onto Madison Avenue, and you're looking across at the Grange building, you get a good view of that one. That's really pretty too. Did those signify anything in particular?
Those two are really designed off of the colors of the building, and the one on the Bat Factory we painted with children at the Space on the River as an after-school program, and that particular design, is easy for kids to do. We use masking tape, and for that one we stuck with primary colors because there's so much brick in the downtown. We thought that using, yellow, blue, red, and like an antique white would look really great with the environment. So we really try to stand out but blend at the same time when we think about color schemes and designing public art.
Well, it really pops out, and they're very attractive, and I'm sure you've gotten a number of comments on them already.
Yes, we have. I saw it for the first time today, and I was really impressed. I've only seen photographs and some drone footage, but I thought it looked just fabulous as you come off the island into the downtown. It just has a nice presence, and it's welcoming.
And your eyes are drawn right to it, and it's a nice introduction into downtown Skowhegan.
Yeah.
Having that there, it just looks really good. So
yeah, and I think reproducing these classic American designs is something that everybody likes. So it's a very unifying presence. It's not controversial, and it's something we all have connection to because most of us have a grandmother or a grandfather who quilted, and those quilts are passed down from generation to generation. So they're meaningful to a lot of people. So that's one of the reasons why I think this project is successful, and it's, there's over 7,000 barn quilts throughout our country, and it's actually the largest grassroots public art project in the history of America. And again, I think that's due to the significance of the designs being meaningful to people.
But it's very welcoming coming into the downtown and seeing that, and it adds a little class to and a nice touch to downtown. So, and as I said, I haven't seen the other ones that are scattered throughout Somerset County, but I'll have to get a hold of your brochure and know where they are and take a look at some of those. So it sounds really nice. Now, Wesserunset Arts Council is really, you are like an umbrella organization, right, over three different pieces, and one of them we talked about Huskow, the radio station, but there's something called Open Arts, and the Somerset Cultural, Rural Cultural Planning side as well. And so let's talk about, do you want to talk about Open Arts first? What's Open Arts do?
Open Arts is a committee that organizes an annual studio tour called the Open Arts Studio Tour, and they have a map as well. So in this, I believe it's we've stopped because of COVID, but it will be going on next year. It gathers, John, how many artists do you think?
25 or so.
About 25 studios, and there's a map, and people can drive around and visit the studios. And potentially buy art. So that's a really nice project that's been going on for a long time. And most recently, Open Arts did raise money to install a number of historical murals in Skowhegan, which we can talk about now or later.
So that was under Open Arts, the bicentennial
Yeah.
murals. Actually, no time like the present.
Okay.
Let's get right into
Okay.
Let's get right into that.
Sure. So the Maine Arts Commission offered bicentennial celebration grants back in 2019, 2020, and we applied to do murals that celebrate the history of Maine. That grant was not awarded until 2021. In the meantime, we got a matching grant from the Maine Community Foundation so that we could do 3 murals, and they've all been commissioned. We had a request for proposals out for 4 months, and we received a good number of proposals. We settled on Ivor Luffing, and he did a design of a chronological history of Skowhegan, and that will be going on the building, the space on the river, on the back side that faces the Thai restaurant. And the height building wall, we got permission to use as long as the material was history of the Skowhegan Fair. And we saw that as, a really an icon for our region. This is the oldest agricultural fair in the consecutively running in our country, so there's some real significance to that. And Kevin James was awarded that for his proposal. And then the third one is going on the Skowhegan Savings Bank Records building on the stucco wall that kitty corners the Grange building. And that mural will be done by Gordon Carlisle. He's working on it now, and we're hoping to see it installed by the end of November. This particular mural is really interesting. It's going to be on 3 separate panels, so that's called a triptych, when there's 3 paintings lined up next to each other, and they depict the logging days in the middle, so the log drives going down the Kennebec, and he also has a depiction of the woolen mill strike, and on the other side fly fishing, and you can see under the river some salmon. And that one I think people will really enjoy. It's quite beautiful.
And that's in November.
That's in
going up. What's the timing of say the one on the Height building and the other one near MTI?
Those should both be up by June of 2022. So those artists are going to work over the winter to complete those ones.
Now, they do certain coverings to protect them so that they are there for the long run, right? What do they do when they're painting them?
So they use, exterior grade MDO sign board, which is what most exterior signs are made on, which are sealed up really well. And then there's many different paints available. I think each artist is choosing their preferred paint. And then we recommend, which they're all doing, to seal them with a crystal clear varnish that's UV protected so that the sunlight won't damage the color over time. Mm-hmm. And the lifespan of those will probably be maybe 30 years. It really depends, I think, on so if it's facing south or north. Some exposures are going to get more weather. But yeah. So they're taking the proper measures.
What I hear, they were putting some sort of varnish finish coat on it as a protectorant.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options for that. So each artist, again, is using their preferred varnish.
Okay. Are you, these all 3 are in Skowhegan.
Yeah.
Are there any in other communities planned at all?
Probably in the future. We decided, we do serve, Wesserunset Arts Council does serve the county of Somerset, but we felt that focusing this project in the county seat, this Skowhegan is the service center where people come to do a lot of shopping. We felt that we would reach more people if we started in the county seat, and then once we get a lot of artwork there, we'll start, moving to Madison and other communities surrounding.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as I said, these are very inviting, and I'm sure that they're bring out the culture of the area. But I think things like this can contribute to the economy of the area too, because you have these things and people say, well, gosh, you go into Skowhegan and you see all these beautiful murals and things that might attract more potential business and travelers to the area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the goals of the Somerset County Rural Cultural Plan, is to drive that creative economy forward through the arts, things like public art help, and putting money into the creative sector by hiring artists to do things, and drawing attention to our communities and the history of our communities, as giving people a sense of place, and to be welcoming, and and inclusive.
You know, welcoming it is, I think, so the Somerset Rural Cultural Plan. Now, this was put together, right, in collaboration with Main Street Skowhegan,
Yep.
and this started when, 2016 or something, and got finalized in 2018. What was that process like?
That was a long process, and we collected surveys for about 6 months. We held data gathering meetings in the Forks, Skowhegan, Madison. I think we held one in Pittsfield. So we really went into different communities to gather to find out what people's values were in the sense of how they see arts and culture, what they see it could do for their community. So, and then we took all that data, developed surveys, and collected over 400 surveys. I think about 450, which is pretty amazing to get that many responses. And from that data, the cultural plan was crafted. So we saw, what are the priorities? And one thing that we identified through that was people really felt like we needed to make better use of a performing arts center. The Skowhegan Opera House was identified as a really underutilized resource and really the premier performing arts venue. So since then we've been working to get that revitalized. There was a group that wrote a business plan for it, and from that business plan, which was finished in 2019, we've been going after grants to upgrade the sound and lighting so that we can have professional productions there again. Right now people can rent it, but again, just the sound and lighting equipment is outdated.
It was my understanding that the town, they had a committee to fix up fix the place up, really, and then but they needed somebody to partner with in terms of bringing back shows, productions, and so forth. So, and that's basically where Wesserunset Arts Council comes in.
Yeah, so West Arts formed the Friends of the Skowhegan Opera House
Yep.
to raise money for the Opera House, and the town has put a good amount of money into energy upgrades and just the general structure of the place. And West Arts is really focused on getting money for new soft goods. So the curtain system needs to be upgraded, sound, lighting, and we've raised about $30,000 so far. We need to raise a lot more than that. So we're plugging away. I think one of the stumbling blocks with funders is it is a municipally owned building, so that can hold back some foundations from giving us money, but we're still plugging away and searching for those funds.
So you're looking at potentially private donations as well as
Yeah.
grants and
Yes.
other things, okay?
Yeah.
And I would say 30,000 is a start, but there's a lot of things to be done. Now,
Yeah.
I saw a pretty good-sized laundry list of things that you want to get done there, and sound and lighting is part of that. But there was also like bathroom facilities,
Yes.
Insulation, a bathroom facility, right? Not only for, there's one like for the actors, right? And
Right, a backstage one, and then I think we need a new women's restroom for the public.
yeah,
And those are further down the list. Right now we're really focused on just being able to host a professional production with the right stage equipment.
yeah.
Um,
Now, I read that initially what you're trying to do is maybe have a limited number of events and then eventually expand this around into really a year-round
yes.
entity. Because the Opera House is really, basically very nice. And I remember when Pat Dickey was town manager, they raised funds and they got new seating in there, which is a heck of a lot more comfortable than the seating that was there. And I think they had like nameplates on the seats from local donors. And anyone who knows Pat Dickey, she was able to go out, and she is a tremendous fundraiser, and was able to and get the job done. So that was a big improvement, and then I think they've done something with the cooling system, right, or the,
Right, the town invested a lot of money into energy upgrades, including insulation and cooling. There was a long gamut there, a long list of things.
Long
Yeah.
list of improvements
Yeah.
that they made.
It was,
That they
it was,
made.
I think it was close to $300,000 they put into it recently.
okay.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more money that needs to be spent. So what COVID really set people back by a year or years in doing things, and I assume that applied in your situation as
Yes.
well.
Right, so the business plan was finished in 2019. We started fundraising in 2020, which abruptly, normally we would have held a number of events to raise funds, and we could not do that. So we really started just looking at grants and things that we could do.
And because it's municipally owned, it was more difficult to get grants, is that right?
I think so. Some organizations are, fine with that. Others, aren't. So
Yeah.
it is a stumbling block.
And you are backed, right, by the Maine Arts Council and the Maine Community Foundation. I seem to see their names come up quite a bit in terms of providing you folks money and grants for things.
Yeah, historically we have received a number of grants from the Maine Arts Commission and the Maine Community Foundation as well, their community building grant.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were awarded the SEED Phase 2 grant, which stands for Creative Communities Equals Economic Development, and that was to implement parts of our cultural plan. And so that was in collaboration with Main Street Skowhegan. We commissioned 5 fire brazier sculptures that float on the Kennebec River.
Kennebec on Fire.
Kennebec on Fire. We had the Kennebec on Fire Festival this year to unveil them and light them. Unfortunately, it was raining, but we still did it, and the rain tapered off. We had live music. A good number of people came out. So I would say it was a big success to see them all out there, and those will be continued to be used, not in the winter, but in the seasonally. So at major events in the park or in Skowhegan, those will be lit. And Christina Cannon's really been the driver of that project to get it done.
Yeah, you've had a pretty good partnership really with Main Street Skowhegan on this stuff. Now, tell me a little bit, and we're going to bring Tom and Peggy in here in a few minutes too, so you guys aren't going to get off that easy, you know.
She knows
That's
her
all
stuff.
But, yeah, Kennebec on Fire, how did that really all get started? I heard that, it was based on Providence, Rhode Island's main fire thing, which I certainly a lot of people are familiar with.
I think Christina and Mary Haley used to work for Main Street Skowhegan and West Arts, and they went to Providence and were really inspired at these fire braziers on the river down there and how many people came out for these events, and they wanted to replicate that for Skowhegan. So when they applied for the SEED Phase 2, they wanted to focus on public art, and that's the direction they chose to go. And so they received that funding, and we were able to work with 4 different artists and commission 5 different sculptures. So we did 1 last year and 4 this year. And I'd say it's been a big undertaking as far as logistics go of getting these, sculptures that weigh 1,000 pounds in and out of the water, anchored into a moving river. There's a lot that goes into it, and again, I applaud Christina for figuring all those logistics out.
And the river does move pretty well at the eddy where you located these things. So
she worked with the engineers at Dirigo.
Dirigo, I remember saying, to do that. So who actually brought the sculptures out in the river then? Was it
Maine Crane?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to have seen that process being done. Now I read the first sculpture was done by a fellow by the name of Steve Anderson, right, and from Norwich Walk, and I was reading a little bit about him, and he did this thing with a part of an old propane tank, and he did these salmon silhouettes on it, and kind of symbolizing the the salmon in the river and all that stuff. And so you take the old propane tank, you fill it up with wood, and you light it on fire, and it lights up very well at night, I guess. And there were what, 3 or 4 others
there's
out there too.
4 others. Yep, there's
Yeah.
a pine cone, and then there is one that has like wheat spires going around a basin. There's one called canned corn, and it has silhouettes of corn growing. So really hitting on those
Agriculture and fishing
parts.
and
Fishing, yeah.
yeah.
And the pine cone, we're the pine tree state,
Yeah.
so that's pretty relevant. And then there's a very organic one that's like a leaf shape.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to see the type of artistic talent that we have in the area, and in Anderson's case, using this old propane tank and carving out silhouette thing as salmon and other things in that. That's rustic art at its best, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's nice. So the festival went well this year.
Yep.
That was the end of August, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a number of arts and crafts vendors show up. Morgan, Knox McLeod, thank you. Did a fabulous drumming workshop where anyone could participate on the lower stage, and on the upper stage we had a band playing that Huskow sponsored.
Yeah.
Well, it was part of concerts in the park.
Mm-hmm.
Fell on that same day.
Oh, yes, that they were doing every Sunday, right?
Every
Yeah.
Sunday. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, so that worked out pretty well. And
Yes.
attendance, was it a good day? Was attendance good?
Well, it was a sketchy day, but
Yeah.
there
Like
was
every
some-
weekend in Somerset
right.
County lately, yeah.
Yeah.
So
in Maine.
every, Hardy Mainer was there.
Yeah.
We felt like we had a good attendance.
Yep. Yeah, it was like a 9-piece band that was playing.
Oh, nice.
What was it, the Sunday project?
Sunday
Yes.
project,
Yeah.
yes.
Sunday
And-
project.
Local band.
Yeah. So some artists showed up, right? Weren't
Yeah.
artists allowed
Oh,
to
yeah.
come and
Yeah.
show their display and maybe sell some stuff while they were
Mhm.
here?
Yep.
So we had John Harlow, he was there with his artwork.
Who's John Harlow?
Who is he?
I don't know.
A fella from up in
Like the
Massey.
masked man, the man behind the curtain here.
Right. And Wendy, I always do that, Carrie Wendell,
Okay.
he was another artist that was represented. And we had a woman that brought in her crafts, and I'm blanking on her name, but lovely setup there. And then we had Christina, who brought in her products of herbal remedies.
Yeah.
And
Huskow had a setup where we sold T-shirts for the Opera House.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Kevin James was there with his art.
right.
With his
Yeah.
art, yeah.
And
he
I was there with bubble art for kids, making giant bubbles, and it was actually great weather for that part.
Yes, it was.
Did a lot of kids show up?
And there was a
Fair
good
amount.
little amount,
Yeah, we
and they were having a ball with you.
yeah, it was very popular.
Well, that's
For
nice.
for a lousy day,
Yeah.
it really came off pretty good.
And so you lighted all the sculptures that
Yes,
night,
that
and it
was
must
the-
have been quite something to see.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, tell me, how often are these sculptures going to be lighted? Is it like at special events?
Right, special events. So all the Main Street Skowhegan events, they'll be lit for. If West Arts gets back into having some major events, we'll light them for those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So these are all like anchored to the bottom of the river.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that flow of that water there is pretty good. So
Mhm.
probably a pretty strong base they got underneath those, I would think. So.
Yeah, I think she got all marine, ocean-worthy chains and anchors.
Okay. Now the sculptures, read something about them being on a seasonal day, so somebody's taking those out
Yep.
about this time of year and then putting them back in the spring.
Yep, that's Main Street Skowhegan.
That's their problem.
Well, I don't know. Christina, again,
Yeah.
I think has really got it figured out.
Yeah, I'm sure
she's
she
got
has.
a lot of connections, and Not to say the project won't evolve. There's been talk about, you know, if other communities want to use them or, you know, potential other locations. Since we are taking them out, we can choose where we put them back in.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding there were going to be other sculptures in other locations eventually. Is that correct?
I think we had enough money to commission 5 sculptures, and it being somewhat of a pilot project, we have them all in one place.
Yeah.
And then say if, you know, another community along the Kennebec wanted to have one for the summer, I know Christina is excited to pursue those options. Yeah.
Because I would certainly think that could help with the tourist industry in town when you have that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always, arts, I think really, and you know, this is part of your theme too, I think arts can play in with stimulating the economy. Because people love to come and see things like that. So, and that other than Providence, who's doing stuff like that?
Fire sculptures?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, but they were kind of the inspiration behind this, it sounds like.
I think they're the most well-known. They were
Yeah.
Sort of the originator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they were the one that Christina and Mary Haley went and saw.
Well, they did a
And-
road trip.
Yep, and
Yeah.
they got inspired and followed through. And we were willing to join forces with them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very good idea, and
Mhm.
and hopefully we'll be able to see it at a number of events here in the future.
Yes.
Now we're going to finally get over to your side a little bit, and Peggy, you're the president. What's
Yes.
the president do?
Oh, the president has to organize the meetings
Yeah.
and then come up with an agenda. And
How often do you guys meet?
we meet once a month.
Okay.
And right now, all of our meetings have been Zoom meetings.
Of course.
Yeah. So we've done quite a bit in our regular meetings, you know, organized committees and heard from each of the 3 legs of our organization, which are the radios, the open arts, and the Somerset Planning Committee.
Okay.
And so each of those report out each month. And last year we did a letter call for supporting us,
Mhm.
and the community was very supportive of
Okay.
that.
Fundraising letter. Yeah.
A fundraising letter.
Yeah.
And so we've taken that money and we have put it into a program that our secretary, Lynn Gavoni, organizes, which is art packets for children
Okay.
during the school year.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, the Skowhegan Library took over the art program.
Okay.
So we're kind of working in correlation with that.
Speaking of the library, it's my understanding that you do, and maybe pre-COVID, we're doing art displays, art at the library, right? And
Yes, we
is
will.
that got maybe curtailed during
It
COVID?
did. That was Lolly Phoenix. She did a good job with that early on,
Yep.
pre-COVID. And now Lynn Gavoni, our secretary again, has gotten in touch with a business in Skowhegan that has an empty window, and she's been putting art in that on a regular basis. Children, school age children's art.
Okay.
Warren's.
Oh, yes, in
Yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
Warren's building,
Yeah.
supply building, yes. And doing that.
Yes.
So she is involved in getting kids going creatively
Yes.
on art.
Yes.
And
she has.
she's already in the school system anyway, a speech therapist, is
Yes,
that right?
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Lynn
she's
is-
got a lot of good, positive energy. She's also a thespian, so, and we have a couple on our, within our group, and we have plans for a Christmas show in December at the Opera House.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
All right.
It's not
Another thing I didn't know. As I said,
Okay.
See?
try, my crack research staff has failed me in a couple areas here, and I didn't, that's me. I didn't realize you're having a Christmas show, so tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that.
This is by Carrie and Peggy Wendell, and they, it was a Christmas show that they used to do in the town that they lived in, but they have since moved to Maine. They're now Norwich Walk residents, and they love this play, and they're going to produce it here in Skowhegan. They've already sent out casting notices, and they have all of the actors and actresses that they need. It's really for young actors and actresses.
What's the name of the play?
That's
You'd
what I'm
have to ask
blanking
that.
on right now.
That's okay. John, do you know, in the background
On
here?
this night.
What is it?
On this night.
On this night.
Okay, thank you, John. John's our vice president of
Oh,
Wesserunset.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So-
John is a man of many talents,
Cool.
many hats,
Yes. So-
including running Channel 11 as well.
Right,
So,
So ask that question again.
yeah.
so
Yeah, and so, when is it and where is it?
it's going to be at the Skowhegan Opera House, and the dates are on our
I
webpage.
think it's December 3rd and 4th, I believe, but please double check.
It's that weekend,
December 3rd.
Friday, Saturday, something like that. We'll go with December 3rd and 4th for right now,
Okay.
since I don't
Yeah.
have my calendar in front of me.
I know.
So we do that. So
I'm
that's
sorry.
kind of, so it's going to be a fundraiser for West Arts and specific project or anything?
For the Opera House.
For the Opera House.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. It's in the Opera House.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that'll be neat
yes.
to have.
So it's like the first major production, other than dance routines that have been ongoing at the Opera House.
Okay.
So it should be a lovely couple evenings out.
Oh, so fantastic. Yeah. Well, God knows we could use an evening out once in a while. since we
Right.
Haven't had many in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Is there any, I shouldn't even ask this question, but I will. Is there any vaccination status thing that is required here?
I haven't heard of anything formalized yet.
Yeah, I don't know whether they have a
Yeah.
policy for that venue or not.
Yeah, I think we'd have to refer to the town Opera House committee to see what their policy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this show steers away from controversy, so I won't get into that too
Okay.
much, okay?
Right.
Shouldn't have asked that question, but I did. John has the right to edit me anytime he wants, but you can go ahead. What we have not talked about as far as Hooskow, and Tom, you're general manager of Hooskow. I have my little file thing with me just in case, because I had a list of all the DJs and the different eclectic things that they do on that. But you know, one thing that kind of interests me when I was looking at it is that you do have some DJs that have quite a bit of commercial radio experience on top of, it isn't just college radio or community radio or whatever. You've got a pretty experienced crew there.
Mm-hmm.
Annie Gray would be one of them. She's been on TOS and other radio stations over the years. And there's another fellow, Bean.
James Bean.
James Bean,
Yeah.
who looked as though he had been on a whole bunch of different commercial and community stations.
Tim Smith,
or
very-
Tim Tron, yeah.
very experienced.
Yeah, very experienced. So these aren't people just off the street
Right.
that have never done this before.
Right.
You've got some.
Yeah,
So-
some people have quite a bit of experience, and then others have just got into it recently.
Yeah,
Um,
they always enjoyed music, and they
Yes.
said we'd like to share that
Yeah.
with people. And so, tell me about the station. How did that all get started? It's a low power station.
Yes,
I
right now
know
it's
that.
a low power station. About 6 years ago, a group of DJs and others wanted to start their own radio station. I think they were dissatisfied with commercial FM radio stations and just kind of playing the same songs over and over. And so they hooked up with Wes Arts. I know Ernie Hilton was a big help with that,
Mhm.
and he's on the board now still. And they were able to get an FCC license for low power.
Yeah.
Those were the only ones available.
Right.
And it's pretty crazy. You have these 100-watt and bigger, and Huskow is 2 watts.
2 watts.
And
So that's like a mouse in a treadmill generating power, right?
yeah, yeah,
But one thing I have noticed, I know the tower is on Bigelow Hill because Tim Tron's got he's way up at
Yeah.
the highest point in Skowhegan, and he's got all these radio towers and TV towers and stuff up there.
yeah.
But by being at that elevation, that gives you a range that is much greater than you would think would be generated with that type of power.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we travel around, we try to pick it up, but sometimes you can get it in Farmington.
Yeah.
Kingfield.
Kingfield, we've got it as far as Hussey's General Store. 'Cause sometimes in the valleys you lose it.
You get it well out in Cornville where you live?
Yeah, very well.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, good.
And so, yeah, they were able to get that license, and then with Timtron, with those towers, and he's just a
With
genius.
with his engineering background, yeah.
Yeah, and they took off, and the expenses are relatively low, because Timtron had the towers, and
Right.
And Amber.
And Amber has the facility.
yeah,
Yeah.
Amber has generously given us a couple jail cells for a studio.
For those who don't know where the studio is, it is in the grist mill in downtown Skowhegan, in what used to be a jail,
Mhm.
and hence the name Huskow, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a creative play on words,
Yes.
anyways, for
Yeah.
the station. Now, tell us about the shows. I mean, you guys are all over the place in terms of music genre that
Yes.
you play, and it's kind of reminds me of a college radio station for older people. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But we've got some young DJs that are playing the most popular music of the time.
So it still
Right.
ranges over
Oh
the
yeah,
spectrum.
the range goes from Frank Zappa to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all in between.
Yeah, I've heard. You never know what you're going to hear.
Right,
No.
and that, I think that's really the fun of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, is there any live stuff, or is it all pre-recorded and
It's
insert
all
your voice and
pre-recorded.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Can you
it-
do live?
no,
Not yet, anyways.
yeah,
Every now and then you'll hear a DJ out in the field.
Okay.
And you'll hear Jitterbug Jimmy, who's another DJ, just interviewing people fairly live, and but it is all pre-recorded.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned some of the names are very interesting, and Jitterbug Jimmy, and then he's with somebody
Misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor. Misdemeanor. So, which is perfect once again for jail
Yes,
yes.
situation. So it's funny some of the names and the creativity that's involved in this.
Mhm.
So you can go out in the community and
Record.
record and do interviews and so
Mhm.
forth. So that's good. Now you have a program called Guest Room,
Yes.
right? And so you take somebody who's a local artist or poet or musician or some
cheesemaker
cheesemaker or whatever. And yeah, you don't have to necessarily go far from the grist mill to find talent. So you have that, what, an hour a week or something like that?
that Earl Boyd,
Who is
Jitterbug Jimmy,
Jitterbug Jimmy.
Jitterbug Jimmy, yeah.
carried most of the workload on that one, and
Mhm.
would interview people, and then it comes on Thursdays at 5 p.m. and Sunday at 5 p.m. It repeats.
Okay.
And that's run for quite a while.
Quite a while.
But with COVID, that's been a little touchy too.
Oh, yeah. And you have a way to stream some of this if they
Yes,
miss
yeah.
the show on the radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have people listening all over.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You're not limited by the 2 watts of power that you have. And,
No.
so that's good. So you, in terms of interacting with the community, you're able to do some shows. You go out and record things and put them on the air.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're probably putting on like community events and community calendar and things like that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a Dave McDermott. He's the DJ that does the community calendar and performing arts calendar.
Yeah.
And then Earl also started a show called The Main Zone, which promotes local artists or Maine artists.
Okay.
And that runs at the same time that the guest room normally.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, so from those few DJs who started the station, now we've grown to like 26 DJs.
Yeah.
And the basic format is every 15 to 18 minutes is a set.
Okay.
And then it changes to another set.
Okay.
So that allows for all those DJs to get in there.
So if you don't like the music, just wait a minute.
Exactly.
Or 15 to 18 minutes.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And just about every genre is covered.
Mm-hmm.
And as Peggy said, we've had some good young blood come in and become.
Yeah, I'm
DJs.
sorry, I didn't mean that this is all for older folks, but it's
That's all right.
It's good that you do have some younger people involved
Yes.
with it
Yes,
as well.
because they're bringing music that, us old folks don't really tune into too
Yeah.
much. But we've also encouraged local people to do some PSAs for us.
Mm.
So we have a KV Cap set of PSAs that play regularly that talk about things for kids and parents.
Okay.
And then we have medical PSAs
Okay.
from a couple doctors.
Okay, that's good.
And then a good friend of ours, Skip Gates, does a PSA about opioid addiction.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting the word out for the community, trying to help.
So you do a number of community service things
Yes.
as
Yeah.
part of this. Now, you two do a show, right?
Yes, we do.
And what are your stage names?
I'm Hambone.
And I'm Greta.
Where'd that come from?
That was a nickname I had in college,
Okay.
and
And Greta's kind of a nickname I've had along the way.
Okay. Do I dare ask how you got those names?
I think mine's just from Hamilton.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And mine's from Margaret.
Okay, all makes sense,
So-
doesn't it, when you think about it a little bit?
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
our show is called The Great Escape.
yeah. Great escape. Now, did you ever do college radio? Did you do anything leading up to this?
He did.
I
Yeah.
did at WUMF
Okay.
with Bruce England.
Yes, and of course I know Bruce
Yes.
pretty well, and Bruce has told me repeatedly. Maybe he'll see this show and get motivated,
Yeah.
but he's told me repeatedly that he wants to do a show for you. And
Yes.
for those who don't know Bruce, he used to own the music gallery
Mhm.
in Waterville, so he knows a
Music.
ton about. He's got the library in his head.
Yes.
And he's amazing what he knows about it, but I'm sure he would be a nice contributor to your show.
We keep hoping.
He is retired, he has the
Yeah.
time
Yes.
to do that, so that would be nice. Have you reached out to other local, how do you get your talent? Is it all word of mouth?
All word of mouth, and just people, say, hey, any chance I could be a DJ? And usually we welcome it.
The music is recorded right in the studio?
Well, it's where it is all recorded, and nowadays that's all computer. Some Most people do record at the studio, but a lot of us are able to record at home.
Okay.
So it makes it very convenient.
Okay.
And then we just have to be able to send it to, usually Andy Wendell, who's the programmer.
Yeah.
And then he puts it into this, program that just keeps the music going.
Okay. Well, it sounds very nice.
Yeah, he really works hard, spends a lot of time, and very good with quality control.
Yeah.
It's really,
No, the station sounds fine, and it sounds, it'd be kind of nice maybe in the future if you can do live broadcasts and
Yeah.
coverage of
Mhm.
some local events live. Is that kind of in the plan at some
yeah,
point?
I think eventually,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, so that would be nice. Okay, we still got a few minutes left. Okay, give us the vision statement, Saskia, where this is going. Kind of an open-ended thing.
For West Arts,
Yes,
a vision statement in the future.
yes.
Let's see. West Arts envisions Somerset County as a place that provides abundant arts and cultural opportunities, and that's inclusive to people, anyone who's interested, regardless of class or gender. So we really see Somerset County as being a welcoming place where one can come and not only enjoy the abundant natural assets that we have, but also the downtowns and the cultural life and arts opportunities that are here.
Are you finding that now that there's more, I don't know if you call it fruits to your labor that are out there, more tangible signs of some of the things that you do, that you're getting more people willing to step up to the plate and be friends of West Arts or, whatever, or maybe making financial contributions?
Yeah, I think our ask letter last year generated more than we expected.
Yeah?
People are really generous considering, it was 2020. And, as far as, public art and things like that, I think it takes a little time for you to see the results of that. With Franklin County, this has been out since 2019, and I get phone calls and emails on a regular basis of people who want to come up, do the tour, see the quilts, and I think that is a real boon to the economy and the communities, and I expect, the same for Somerset County as we expand this trail, this barn quilt trail.
Mm.
So,
Where could people get that pamphlet?
these are available at the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce, which is in Farmington, at the Walmart, and they're also available at kiosks in Kingfield, Stratton, Rangeley, and Phillips. So they're
Could
all
those
over.
be just suggestions maybe in the chamber offices or chamber in Skowhegan,
Skowhegan?
for example?
Yep. Yeah, we could bring a box over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure
Sure.
Jason
It's
would
a
be very happy to
Amazing
have
pamphlet.
it there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So any major projects, you guys have done a lot already, and it sounds as though a lot of your thrust is going to be fundraising for the Opera House.
Right, we have that. I think I just submitted a grant to add another mural. We had hoped to get representation from the First Nations to have the Native American history told alongside of, just the history of Skowhegan area in general. The RFP was out for 4 months. We need to spend that grant money in an X amount of time, so we're following through with that. But we want to make sure that the history is fair and balanced, so we are fundraising to try to do a 4th mural that would be exclusively for First Nation artists. Other than that, the radio station's ongoing. We are trying to raise money to do a youth scholarship in the arts. The Opera House definitely is ongoing. And we're also interested, the Skowhegan Bicentennial is coming right up, and we had talked about potentially reproducing historic photographs, large scale, as wheat paste murals downtown, which I think would be a really fun project, and that could involve community members who are interested. history buffs. And
Oh, yeah,
that's the way.
and I'm sure there's a few around here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the History House in Skowhegan, maybe you can get some information or some pictures and so forth from them.
Mhm.
I know, was it Mel Burnham was very involved in that at one time in his history. Maybe you can talk with Mel about that.
Yeah, we've been through their archives. We've identified some great images. I think we'll also be reaching out to the library to see what they have for
Of course.
resources as well.
Yeah.
But the History House definitely has a great collection of photographs.
Do you intend to ramp up the art at the library thing this coming year? Or are you trying to still figure COVID out, and God knows when that's gonna?
I think still
Yeah.
figuring COVID out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
'Cause
just going back to the scholarship, this year, we have been the hosts of the concerts in the park, which the Park Commission runs every summer from July through August. And so all of the money that we earn this year, donations, will go toward the scholarship
Okay.
this year.
You-
Next year, it'll be another business or, not business, but another organization that will receive the donations that are made. But we will still continue to be the hosts.
Okay.
So we've had different DJs hosting the different concerts, and luckily, we only had 2 that got rained out this summer.
That was pretty good considering how our summer went.
I know.
Yeah, it seems like every single weekend there's some rain going on, so
Yeah.
it's certainly hard to plan around stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it sounds as though you folks have made the best of the COVID situation, and despite probably getting behind some of your goals because of that,
Mhm.
you still have pushed forward and seems to me gotten a lot of stuff done.
We have
Over
had
that period of
great
time.
support
Yeah.
from the community
Yeah.
and our listeners, and,
And I would say Saskia, she's just
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah, she
Yeah,
is
she
really,
Writes the grants and gets the money coming in and organizes and,
That's a key person when you have that.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've really appreciated her knowledge and her energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'm happy to do it. I do think one thing that COVID sort of affected our trajectory is we really were looking at outdoor opportunities, outside artwork, concerts in the park, etc. Just so it's more inclusive, because not everybody wants to walk into a library right now, or
Got it.
stores in general. So
Mm.
we're trying to be responsive
Yeah.
to that.
Absolutely. Well, I have found this to be very interesting. Certainly no surprise there, I think. And we were very fortunate this morning to have Saskia Reinhold on, as well as Tom and Peggy Hamilton. Thank you very much for being on the show. And I want to mention, as I always do, that this show was created by Katie Willett. Unfortunately, Katie can't be on set with us anymore. She's at Maple Crest Nursing Home. She seems to be doing fine. And my job after the show is to call her and give her an update as to what happened on the show. And she's always very excited to hear about that. So I certainly wanted to mention Katie here this morning.
Mhm.
So thank you folks for coming on, and now you know.